So let's say I want to build an application.
Yeah.
Why would I use Nervos to build the application on versus going to Ethereum or Komodo or Skycoin or Cardano or any of the other neo platform protocols? Why Nervos?
I think you're kind of making a bet on an ecosystem. I think the virtual machine of Nervos is it's an actual computing instruction set. It's RISC-V. It's actually hardware that runs on this instruction set, which really opens up the range of open source tools and programming languages that we can use down the line. And I think part of the reason that I'm so excited and invested in the project is because of the
Buy over 50 cryptocurrencies with no fees whatsoever using Crypto.com. Get a £50 bonus by using my link and signing up on the website.
Runs on this instruction set, which really opens up the range of open source tools and programming languages that we can use down the line. And I think part of the reason that I'm so excited and invested in the project is because of the level of developers involved and kind of like the focus on creating a great developer experience and something that is really straightforward to get people to jump in and develop applications.
Right.
And,
okay.
and I think with the focus on pushing all of this development toward layer 2, I think a developer could have confidence that the way that they were building their application wouldn't need to change very soon. Like we wouldn't hit congestion on the chain that would require kind of retooling everything. Like we want to insert people into a sustainable position with development. And today that requires some legwork, but we're working to ease that.
Okay. And then what about issues like privacy, decentralization? I think we have to mention DeFi. Get it in DeFi.
Join the buzzword soup, which is that's a tall order to get involved.
And then we can also mention kittens. It's always good for views. Cute kittens.
Great. Yeah, that's
right.
That was the old thing that broke Ethereum. Privacy. I mentioned before that because we're using an actual computing instruction set, there's a lot of flexibility that comes with that. So we recently kind of entered into some collaboration with the Grin community around implementing Mimblewimble on Nervos. So the idea is that you would have kind of transparent transactions that could go into a Mimblewimble pool that would then be kind of obfuscated. Then the transactions or the coins could come out of that pool. You could do a similar thing with kind of shielded transactions, ZK snark based things. The idea is that we don't have to make everything private, which I'm sure privacy advocates would take issue with, because you ideally want to increase that privacy set as much as possible. But that's up to the users. If more people want to use private transactions on Nervos, then that pool of private users will grow. It will become more private. And if people are not and they're okay with the transactions being transparent, then they'll do that. But the idea is to make these kind of decisions application level versus making them protocol.
Right. Okay. So then that would be up to any dApps that get built.
Exactly. Yeah. So the developers that are building applications and the users of those applications.
Okay. All right. And then decentralization. I mean, it's ASIC mineable, which means it can't be that decentralized because you've got concentration of mining power.
Kind of the centralization at the level of pool. Is that kind of yeah.
Okay.
I think it's a big topic of conversation about decentralization is spectrum, and there's so many different ways that you can approach it. But I guess I'll just look at the question of decentralization of decentralization at the level of pools and how that may cause challenges. There is some research in the Bitcoin community around a protocol called Stratum V2, which actually moves the block creation from the mining pool to the miner themselves. So if a pool wanted to launch a 51% attack, they couldn't do it just simply by shoving that out to the miners that mine on the pool and saying like, here's the block to mine. All of those miners would actually share in the rewards of the pool, but the miner themselves had the option to produce the block. And so we have there's a grant proposal to implement Stratum V2. on Nervos, yeah. So I think it's a problem that's shared within Bitcoin as well, and I think yeah, it's a legitimate criticism and area of research, but I do feel like there is work around addressing.
Right. Okay. And it's the same deal for Ethereum because that's also a proof of work coin. I
Yeah,
don't know if
but
it's GPU mineable though, isn't it?
that is correct. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So not so centralized. All right. And the blockchain's open source.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
It's all,
how is the team, the company behind Nervos going to make any money? 2, 3, 4 years down the line.
So there's not a business plan for the foundation. The idea is that this money has been raised in order to bootstrap this project, and that involves building good developer tools and building a community. But at the end of the day, the community and the public really needs to take ownership of this project, like any good open source project, for it to thrive in time.
Right.
And so the goal is to create this community, and then there's a Nervos DAO, which eventually you could do voting and governance, and there's a treasury fund that eventually can be turned on there. And the idea is to create this community, and for the foundation to kind of live the time that it needs to get this started, and then things need to be kind of governed and driven through the community.
Okay. So there isn't a company; it's a foundation, and so then I imagine. So you raise the funds, you're using the funds to pay for regular business costs like any business would do. I imagine the foundation and the team have got a bag of coins each. And the whole idea is that once this project is successful and flourishing, then those bags of coins, that's your investment, your equity.
Yeah, I think so. Anyone involved in the project should, like, there was some team allocation in the Genesis block, and I think people involved in the project, I'm sure, are accumulating because they believe in the vision, and that over the long term that it is a great financial move for them.
Right.
As far as kind of like the foundation's holdings, I don't think that's really seen as like kind of runway. There's an ecosystem fund which does hold a good amount of coins, but the idea with this is to distribute that money to build this ecosystem. I think
okay,
kind of
so the foundation and the team are completely separate, and it has this community ethos behind it. That we're going to build this, launch it.
Yeah, I mean, foundation and team. Yeah, I mean, with decentralized things, it always gets complicated. I mean, there are. Yeah, I mean, there is a staff of the foundation, and then there's a lot of developers kind of supported through that. But yeah, the end goal is that this needs to be kind of decentralized, community driven.
Okay, all right. And then what about interoperability? Because you've got projects like Arc that are building bridges between different blockchains and stuff. So is Nervos doing anything like that, or?
Yeah. So there was a project, a grant funded project that we did early on. Suma, James Prestwich, to bring kind of the ability to validate things that are happening on Bitcoin to Nervos. So that was completed. The software's out there. Then there's, I think the idea around bridges to Bitcoin and Ethereum are kind of being worked on. It's kind of unclear when it kind of gets delivered. Yeah, the flexibility of the platform itself kind of opens a lot of doors for interoperability. So like there's a project now that kind of allows any Web3 wallet or MetaMask to kind of use Nervos with their Ethereum addresses and keys. So there's a lot of room for interoperability. I still think it's a big question about how much demand is there for interoperability. I think one of the things that I never quite understood is, say, why people don't use atomic swaps more. Like, is there some sort of fundamental issue with atomic swaps that we need to, we didn't use them, but now we're going to build all these bridges to do cross-chain, asset transfers and contract calls and all this. So I kind of have a fundamental question around interoperability of like why we don't do it already.
Right.
I think there is the capability there. And with Nervos, there are huge opportunities for interoperability. I just kind of wonder how much of an appetite there is for it, at this point.
Okay, all right. Well, I imagine as more and more people move into the space, because we're just in the early days of the bull run, many happy months to come, Matt. Right? There's going to be more and more increasing demand. And then I noticed the difference because I got into I started running my channel in April 2017. I noticed
Yeah.
the difference now compared to then in terms of the number of wallets, hardware wallets, the number of fiat crypto on ramps.
Yeah.
It's so much easier now for people. So I imagine more people will rush in, and there are more people rush in quicker because there's more ways of entering the space. Okay, and then what about hardware wallets? Can this be stored on a Ledger or an Elipal or an Apollo? How's
Yeah.
that going?
So there is the IM key support, which is IM tokens hardware wallet. That is available now. The Ledger support is very close, but at this point it's still kind of a bit of a developer tool to actually use it. But that is being integrated now into kind of more UI driven wallet. So I would say the Ledger support integration would come very soon.
Right. Okay. Any others that you're looking at or likely to happen
At this
soon?
point, that's kind of all I've heard.
Right. Okay. All right. Let me see now. Yes. So I think everybody knows about Bitcoin and Ethereum in the space. Everybody knows about Ethereum.
Sure.
And many people may have heard of Skycoin because it's been around so long, and similarly Komodo, and then Cardano is a top 10 coin, right? What are you doing to get the word out with regards to Nervos? You just kind of turned up.
Yeah. So I think me reaching out to someone like you, us having these discussions, I think that's a big part of it. A lot of one-on-one interactions and kind of like tapping our network around. I think partnerships and building those relationships with other projects, that's a big part of it too. I think we see that there are a lot of exciting projects out there doing great things, and I think if we can kind of show them like, hey, look at this incredible thing that we're doing. Hopefully they see the promise there, want to get involved and build together. I think. But I think your point around kind of the bull run, the bull market. I think people need a destination. I think that's they see kind of the hype and the numbers, and without a clear like buy Bitcoin, or for some people it's buy XRP, for some people it was buy Link. People need that kind of clear destination, and I think what from your point of view, like what gives people kind of that kind of that clarity around like, I'm going to go out and I'm going to get that coin.
Yep. You're asking me?
Yeah, I'd love to hear your perspective.
A slightly long answer, which is my background is in children's social work, and it was dead end for me, Matt.
Yeah.
It was dead end. I worked bloody hard in a very stressful job. A lot of the time I enjoyed it, but the paperwork was what did me in. Don't have a pension. It was all contract work, and I wanted to get out because I just had enough of working 6-7 days a week and being paid for 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Right. And then the opportunity of cryptocurrency was like, okay, I can now provide. I can provide for my family and set up my future. So I mean, people will often talk about they're doing this to make a difference. Well, good luck to them, right? I want to feed my family. I got to pay my bills.
Yeah.
And I do pro bono work for other organizations and stuff like that. So the difference. But this is not. I got to make a living.
Yeah, I think there is kind of harmony between the making a difference and making a living, and I think it's kind of a tall order to say making a difference is actually like the outcome of that has to be like giving a lot of people the ability to kind of make more of their life and do more. And I think with kind of getting back to your question of like what we're doing, I think at the end of the day, like we really have to provide compelling use cases and a compelling way for people to actually create economic value, do interesting things. And I think the focus has always been on like, let's build a really good platform that can enable all sorts of new use cases and businesses and kind of ways of organizing in the world. And like, let's do it in a way that isn't going to burn out once people start to use it. And I think it's not, like I said, from a more short-term perspective, sure, it's partnerships, building relationships in the community, kind of refining the message, really just getting on people's radar. But I think the thing that gives the project staying power is going to be around delivering people actually like the ability to make more of their lives. And you mentioned DeFi before, which I think has a lot of promise, and it's kind of it's a little blurry right now because we're like we've just like discovered fire, so of course we're just like setting all sorts of things on fire, which is great. It's with it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like we really need to ask, how are we going to, kind of bring, use these mechanisms which are, so elegant and, you know, beautiful uses of the chain. It's just a little bit of math, but how are we going to use that to increase financial inclusion and, actually empower people around the world to make, more of themselves and more for their families, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and actually, I mean, one of the great opportunities about crypto is the wealth transfer.
Yeah.
People like myself who had no access to any kind of meaningful wealth. Okay, so now that becomes available and possible in the crypto
Sure.
space. Okay, now you mentioned DeFi. So have you got any DeFi coming down the line, or is it too early yet?
We've got to have a seat at the table, right? There's a grant funded project to build kind of the equivalent of Uniswap on Nervos, and we just recently announced the partnership with Chainlink a couple days ago. So that'll be integrated. There'll be oracles. A couple stablecoin projects kind of in the works. I think it's comparing a brand new ecosystem to say like DeFi as people see it. I mean, there's no comparison. I mean, we just turn the lights on, and the Ethereum guys have been at this for years. I mean, like you look at kind of how much foundational work went into developing DAI with Ethereum. I mean, there's no substitute. And sure, people could copy it, kind of implement it elsewhere. I'm really excited about what how we take these ideas combined with Nervos is a different platform, a different architecture, just a different beast entirely. And kind of like as those things kind of come together from hackathons, different people looking at it, and if we're smashing atoms together enough, like we're going to discover something unique. And I think there's a lot of work now to kind of see how do we translate those the things that we know and we see already. But what really excites me is what will be unique to Nervos.
So you talked about partnership with Chainlink. Are there any other partnerships that are public right now that you can talk about? And then what are you doing in terms of business outreach?
So we just announced that CKB is available through crypto.com, which to me is a big deal. We're opening a lot of users up there. Not too much else public at this point. I can say that there's a lot coming. There's a business development team that's working very hard. We just started an incubator a few months back. There's a couple exciting projects coming out of that. A lot of outreach ongoing right now.
Right. Okay. And I imagine once the platform's kind of complete as software ever gets, then will come the business outreach, because then you've got something to show businesses and organizations.
I think at some point, if you're kind of familiar with like a feedback loop, like at some point it really starts to spin. And I think once we've made it really easy to launch, say like you take your smart contract and then you've got a whole blockchain yourself, by the end of the day, that kind of thing. Then I think we really start to see an uptick now. And I think right now just structure development, but we're really excited about the foundation we're building.
Right. And anything else on the roadmap coming up that we haven't talked about in the next few months, or towards the end of this year?
I can mention a couple of things there. So the team that developed the kind of ability to use MetaMask as your wallet for Nervos is working on an additional implementation or piece that would allow you to actually just use the secure enclave, which is jargony, but you have a kind of a chip on your phone that can actually store cryptographic keys. And so with this integration, you would actually be able to hold your CKB on your phone. And so I think getting away from those mnemonic words actually like creates a lot of opportunity for new users to come in. I think that's one of the scariest things when people kind of approach this blockchain thing of like, what are these words? Why do I need to know them? So if you can just have your keys on your phone. Then a second piece with that is light client development of you actually could just validate what you're seeing on the chain through say a web page or some other kind of very light client. Whereas now in order to validate information, you need to run a node or kind of trust somebody else's node.
Yep.
So seeing a lot of possibility for very elegant user-facing applications kind of down the line.
Okay, very good. Well, very exciting, right? If people want to get into this project, which is very, very new, and just by the market cap is doing very, very well, and building and building and building and developing their outreach and creating a platform that will, stand, I suppose, alongside Cardano and Ethereum. And I'm not going to say whether it's going to be better or not. I don't want to get into that conversation, right?
That's a long conversation.
Well, it's like, I suppose it's like motor cars. Which is better, a BMW or a Mercedes? Have both.
Seriously, yeah. People just like them both, yeah.
Yeah, like them both, right? And then
one day, go ahead.
If people want to get involved, I'll have all the links in the description below, and invite people to read the white paper, ask questions in the Telegram group, and check it all out. Is there anything else you want to let us know before we finish up, Matt?
I think if any of this is kind of interesting to people, I would suggest that they check out the positioning paper to really kind of get an idea around like why we've kind of created things the way we have, and there's a lot of kind of technical details to dig into. So that's a great place to kind of sum up, what's built there. And definitely, follow us on Twitter, come to the Telegram. A lot of the, I guess, more like detailed discussions reaching team members is on Discord. So definitely, if people are really, interested in getting involved, join the Discord server.
Great. Okay, very good, very good. Well, that will actually be a really great way to start. And what's great about Nervos for sure is that it's really, really early days. Like I wish I'd got into Bitcoin a few months after launch. And the future for cryptocurrencies as a whole is very, very bright. All right, Matt, thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation with me. For anybody who's watching you, if you have any comments or questions, let them know in the description below. Are you familiar with this project? Are you participating in this project? Anything you want to know about it? Again, put a comment down, go join the Telegram group. And between now and when I see you next, please keep filling your pockets with crypto profit. This is Crypto Rich and Crypto Matt signing out. All the best. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rich.